Okay. So thank you for logging in, everybody. And I see Olawakimi and Guisha. Thank you.
Hi.
Uh, hey, good
Welcome.
morning.
I
Um, so this will be a little bit different, and I like to do this every once in a while. I don't think I've done it. We haven't done it this year. I don't think I've done it probably since last summer. So I don't think any of you have looked at this stuff before. But every week we do a reading, right? And like Jendai and I were just saying, the GED social studies test and the high set social studies test are really a test of your reading ability. Yeah, you got to know, it helps a lot to know some history, right? And we try to learn the big things of history and fit. So if you learn something new or you read something new on the test, you can fit it into what you already know about world history and United States history. But really, if you're just a really good reader, you can pass that test, right? The other part of it is not everything you not every question on the social studies test is a reading. Some of it is graphics. So that's what we're going to look at today. Maps, charts, anything that you can see and learn from that's not text, right? So that's also the same kind of thing for the social studies test. And you're going to get some of that on the math test. Um, so that's what we're going to do today. I've got a whole bunch of things we're going to power through. Hey, Ruby, thanks for logging in there. Um, so we'll just jump through. We're going to see a thing on each screen, and I have questions. Go ahead. Feel free to unmute yourself. When I ask a question, go ahead and just say the answer, and we'll work as a team and see. Some of these are really easy. Some are, I hope, a little challenging, and everybody learns something new. Um, so let's see. So this first map, right, is it says world population density. And okay, so the first thing, just like with a reading, you want to preview that reading, right? If you're given a little paragraph, you want to see if there's a title. And when you get a graphic, you want to see if there's a title. Anything you want to immediately when it shows up on your screen or on your paper, you want to start learning what it has for you, right? So this says world population density. Now, on a map like this, on a map, it can be a map of anything, but on a map like this, where there's different colors, and this goes from yellow to red, what do you think, and the title is World Population Density, what do you think the different colors mean? Somebody tell us.
The red color is more population.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, so the darker the red, and
Uh-huh.
we have a little key down here. The
It's
darker the red,
yeah, it give us the difference between the highest and the lowest.
yeah, the highest and lowest population density. And
Uh-huh.
how is this map divided? What are the different
Countries.
parts of the countries? Okay, so we see the countries of the world. So this gives us the population density of each country of the world. The lowest population density, which would be 0 people, this is density person per square kilometer, and
Okay.
that's an average for the whole country, right? So
Uh-huh.
that's it. With the United States of America, that would forget about the cities and the farms, the cities where there's a lot more people. This is just the average for the whole country, right? So you have to be able to kind of pick up on that level of information. Okay, but the darker the red, the more densely populated the country. And we
Okay.
see, the darker red, the darker oranges here through Europe and Southern Asia. We see Japan looks pretty red, South Korea looks pretty red, India, right? A couple other
Uh-huh.
countries in here. Okay, so number one, how can you identify a country with the highest population density on this map? We kind of already said it. How would you identify if you wanted to
The
pick the
darker,
country? The darkest color. Okay.
the darkest color.
Yeah. Name a country that has comparable population density to that of the United States. Okay. Now these aren't labeled, and it can be hard, especially on a small map.
South
What do we
South
think?
Africa.
Okay,
South
South Africa.
Africa.
Yeah, that's actually an easy country to name, huh? Yeah, and you
Yeah.
because it's Africa, it's South Africa. You can always find South Africa. So
South
how did you figure that out?
The color, it's matching.
Right, it looks to
It
be
has the
about the
same color.
same color, right? So that would be
Color,
on
yeah.
the on a country scale, they would have about the same population. They may have different cities and may be very different, but
Mhm.
country-wise, they're comparable. Okay. Now this third question I wrote it a long time ago, and it trips me up every time. But it says, what does this graph tell you about the size of Australian cities? Now, I don't remember exactly what I was thinking when I wrote that question, but look at Australia down here. Okay. What does this tell us about
Mhm.
the national population density of Australia?
It's so low.
Melbourne?
It's very low population density, right?
It's
It's
low. Yeah.
almost white, right? It's maybe the lightest color,
Mhm.
lightest shade of the color they have. But Australia
Yeah.
does have some cities, right? Sydney,
Mhm.
Australia, Melbourne. There's
Melbourne.
big Perth. There's big cities, very big cities in Australia.
Mhm.
I don't remember what I meant when I wrote this question. It's kind of a tricky question. But what we could maybe figure out is there are cities in Australia, big cities, millions of people,
Mhm.
but there's a lot more empty space in Australia.
Yeah.
So when you take all those people in the cities, a couple of big cities in Australia, and if you were to spread them out across the whole country, you still have a very
Mhm.
low population density. So maybe this question, I should probably change it. It's not a very good question, but this doesn't tell you about Australian cities. You might look at that and say, well, there must not be any cities in Australia, but there are cities in Australia. But what there's a lot more of is just empty space where nobody lives, like truly nobody lives, right?
Yeah. It's the same like Canada. The same
Yeah,
color.
right. Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Canada's very, very pale yellow, right? There's cities in Australia. There's
Yeah.
tons of people in Australia or Canada. I'm sorry. There's tons of people in Canada.
Mm.
But when you spread them out over a very large, geographically large country, it the number becomes very low per kilometer because it's person per square kilometer, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
So when you look at a map
there is
like this, what's that?
Mhm. Yeah, there is difference between the land, the and comparing the land and
Mhm.
the people.
Right, right. Two countries that have, let's say, two countries each have 10 million people, right? But one country's very small and one country's very big. They're going to show up on this map very differently, even though
Mhm.
they have the same population of 10 million people. So when you look at a map, you have to say, okay, or any graphic, you have to say, what is this telling me? And what is it not telling me? What do I not know by looking at this, right? This is telling us national population density, but we don't know if there's big cities like in Australia, big cities, but then also a lot of empty space. So when you look at a graphic, you have to think, what do I know? And what is this not telling me, right? This is not the purpose of telling me. Okay. Okay, so here's another type of graphic. And this isn't, I don't know if it's all that um, common on the GED test or the high set test, but it is an interesting one. You might see this sometimes, especially on the science test, you might see it. Okay. So this is called a scatter plot. And the title is Scatter Plot Gun Ownership versus Gun Deaths by State. And we see the words, these are the states of the United States: Nevada, Florida, Maryland. Okay. We look at
Okay.
the two axes. The up and down axes is gun deaths per 100,000 people, right? So how many gun deaths? We assume per year. How many gun deaths per year does that state have per 100,000 people? And then across the bottom is gun ownership percentage of households, and it goes 10%, 20%, up to 70%. So left to right, we have the percent of people in that state who own guns, and up and down the vertical axis, we have the number of people who die per 100,000 people of population in gun deaths. Okay. So number 4, what state has the lowest rate of gun deaths per 100,000 people?
Hawaii.
Confusing between Hawaii and Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Well, it looks like Massachusetts is a bit lower, just a little bit lower. Okay, I'm looking at it on a big screen, so I can see it. I can see it pretty good. But yeah, Hawaii, Massachusetts, looks like Massachusetts has the lowest rate of gun deaths per 100,000 people. Now, that question is only asking us to look at the vertical, not the horizontal, right? Okay, but number 5, what state has the highest rate of gun ownership?
Wyoming, Alabama.
Yeah, it looks like Wyoming, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, because they are farthest to the right
Uh-huh.
on this. And it looks like maybe, I don't know, 62, 63%, somewhere in there.
I think Louisiana, no?
No, because that question number
In the
5,
top.
what state
No?
has the highest rate of gun ownership?
Mhm.
Gun ownership is just the
Uh,
sideways on this one. So that question isn't asking
okay,
about
yeah.
vertically, it's just asking about horizontally. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So describe number 6, describe Pennsylvania's position on this graph. Here's Pennsylvania right here.
Mhm.
Ah,
Okay. How would you describe?
Almost the middle, yes, no?
Yeah, the middle.
medium. Middle. Of,
Yeah, medium, the middle. The
Uh-huh.
middle for both, right? Vertically for gun deaths and
Mhm.
horizontally for gun ownership. So Pennsylvania is kind of in the middle of all the 50 states, right? It's
Mhm.
not at the
Mhm.
extreme. Now, a good question that you might come across on a test is, what trend or relationship is this graph showing between gun deaths and gun ownership?
Looks like have more gun. The people deaths gun deaths is more.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, exactly. And that's what this slanted line is. This slanted line is probably the average, right? And Guisha, yeah, you said it. As gun ownership goes up to the right, up to 70%, right? As gun ownership goes up, gun deaths go up as well. The farther to the right a state is, Kansas, Kentucky, Arkansas, whatever, the higher their gun deaths go, right? There are some differences, right? Minnesota down here and Louisiana up top look to be about the same side to side, right?
Mhm.
These two, Louisiana, Minnesota. But Minnesota has, let's look, kind of draw a line across, maybe 6 gun deaths per 100,000, whereas Louisiana has 18.
Mhm.
So if you were a lawmaker or somebody who, wanted to, care about people's safety or whatever, you'd say, hey, Minnesota, or if you if you were the governor of Louisiana, you'd talk to somebody in Minnesota and say, well, we have about the same number of gun owners, but you have a lot fewer deaths than we do in Louisiana. So why is that? And what are your laws? And what is your culture like around guns? And so you'd look at a chart like this and you'd say, why is your state different than mine? Right? So you could see a trend, you could see a pattern, and go from there, learn from it, right? Okay. This one, and I found a long time ago when I made this, I found a lot of the graphs about guns. So there's a couple about guns here. This is a line graph, right? We all know a line graph when we see one. It's just a bumpy line, a measure of something. And this is the rate of firearm suicides after Australia's gun buyback program. Okay. Now, I just found this somewhere. I don't know the history behind it. But Australia, it looks like in 1996, we see from this chart, 1996, the Australian government did a gun buyback program. They wanted fewer guns in Australia. But they didn't want to just pass a law and say it's illegal to have guns. They passed a law that limited gun ownership, but they paid people. The Australian government bought people's guns. So, we're not just going to take your guns, we're going to pay you for them. And so people hopefully are a little less angry, right? Okay, so 1996, Australia does a gun buyback program, which is going to lower the number of guns that Australian people own, right? So we see the top axis, the vertical axis, is firearm suicides per 100,000 residents. And it kind of bumps along at 3 suicides per 100,000 residents, bumps along, starts to go down. And then after the buyback program, it's below 1, right? So that's pretty good. If you're a lawmaker in
Yeah.
Australia, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
So number 7, what would supporters of Australia's gun buyback program say was its effect? If you looked at this and you said, I support the law, the new law, you look at this map and what would you say to support your argument? How does this chart prove that the gun buyback program was good?
Because the number of suicides is got go down.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So after
Yeah.
1996,
It is a good result.
and of course, yeah, that's of course a good thing. So you'd say after 1996, the number of suicides is the lowest that on the chart, right? Maybe the lowest it's ever been, whatever. Okay. And that's good. That supports the gun buyback program. But number 8, what could opponents, people against the program, point to on this chart to say that it was not necessarily effective? There's kind of a tricky catch to this graph. If I didn't like the gun buyback program and I wanted to use this chart to say why it was bad or not needed, what evidence is there in this graph to say that?
Because from this graph, you can see after the 85 something already goes down.
Right. Okay. Exactly. So, yeah, let's say 1985. It was already coming down. So you could say, well, the gun buyback program didn't cause suicides to come down. They were already coming down year after year after year.
There is another reason.
Well, maybe it helps, right? But but you could look at this and you could see both good and bad, right? You could see reasons for it and against it. And that's kind of a tricky one. So yeah, Guisha, good eye to spot that, yeah, the trend was already coming down. The pattern was already coming down. So, a chart like that could be used for both sides of such an argument. Okay, so that's a good line graph. You got to say, okay, what is this graph telling me? What information does it tell me? And then really look, you got to look closely, right? Okay, here's another scatter plot. And this is a good one. It says number 9. Oh, so let's look. Gun ownership versus gun deaths by nation. So same thing, gun related deaths per 100,000 people, guns per 100 people across the bottom. Okay, similar as before. Number 9, the United States is an outlier on this graph. How would you describe the position of the United States on this graph? And the print's pretty small, but this is the United States up here. It is an outlier. What do you think an outlier means? How would you describe the United States?
In the bottom of all the state. It's the first one.
Right, it has kind of the worst outcomes.
Yeah, she is the worst.
So when you have an outlier, right? here's the group. Here's all the other nations. All, well, it's actually not all the nations of the world, but it's maybe 30, 25 grouped all together, all in a bunch, right? And then there's one way out
Mhm.
alone, which means
Yeah.
it's all measuring the same thing per country, but America has a very different set of information, right? So our gun-related deaths per 100,000 people is much higher than even the second highest, which is Argentina.
Argentina.
And our guns per 100 people, percentage of people that own guns. Well, that's okay. So it's not percentage of people that own guns. That's a little bit trickier. This one showed us gun ownership, percentage of households. How many people, how many households own a gun? That's different than this one that has guns per 100 people. I don't own a gun, but if you own 3, then that's going to show up as 3, right?
Mm.
So that's a little bit different. You always have to think, okay, what is this telling me? But it looks like America owns about 90 guns per 100 people, which is again double the next highest, which looks to be maybe Switzerland.
Mhm.
Okay. So an outlier. When you have an outlier, sometimes you wanna take note of that. Number 10, Argentina is also an outlier among the nations shown on this graph. In what way? Here's Argentina. How would you describe Argentina compared to the rest of the group?
They have less gun, but have more deaths.
Yeah, they don't have very many guns, but they have the second highest behind the United States gun deaths, right? They don't have very many guns. It looks to be about 10, maybe 10 or 15. And yet they're the second highest gun death. So something is happening in Argentina that is making
Yeah.
it, dangerous. Okay. Describe Japan's position. Here's Japan way down here. Looks to be
It's
about
quite there.
yeah. It's basically, it looks to be about 0 almost.
Yeah, zero, quite.
Yeah.
Nothing happened there.
Yeah. Sounds like, yeah, it'd be a nice, safe place to live. So, you could say, you could make the argument, and I'm sure people in Japan do make the argument, they almost no one owns guns.
Mhm.
And so you have almost 0 gun related deaths, right? There's
Yeah,
countries in the
peace.
world, also known as, having peace. Yeah.
Yeah, peace.
There's countries in the world where the police don't even carry guns, right? So, you could learn a lot from this kind of thing. If I was president of the United States, I'd be talking to some of these other countries and saying, well, what are you doing right that is making your nation so peaceful, so safe, right? Okay. Okay. Here's another interesting one. Now, this isn't something you're probably ever going to see in your life ever again, but I think these things are really interesting. They're population pyramids. And it's good practice to just learn about a graphic. Here's something. Has anybody ever seen one of these before?
No.
No,
Right. This is
never.
a weird type of graph, right?
Okay.
But let's practice jumping in and just figuring this out.
Mm.
Okay. Okay. So it's population pyramid. So we know it's a population, right? It's showing us something about the population. This is marked as the United States of America. So this is somehow the population of the United States. It gives us a year. It gives us a total population. Now on the left, we have male and female. We have blue and pink, so we can say that's male and female, okay? Now we have down the left, it's not marked as age, but 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14. These are ages, okay, up to 100 plus years old. And in the middle, look at the bottom here. 0 is in the middle, and then it goes out to both sides. 2%, 2%, 4%, 4%.
Mhm.
Okay. So somebody tell me what we are seeing here. What does this graph tell us? Who can put it into words what this is?
The male and female
It's balanced.
relations.
It's like pyramid.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in here I can see the male and the female is balanced, almost the same rate.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So we're seeing the amount of the population that is a certain age and is male or female. Okay. And we see male and female, left and right, are pretty equal. Now we can look at different age brackets. You know, they're in 5-year segments, and we can see there's more 20 to 24-year-olds than 15 to 19-year-olds. And so you can see, you know, if you were somebody who needed to know this information, you could learn about your history, right? If there was a big war 10 years ago that killed all the young men in your country, that's going to look a little bit different, right? Or if people start having a lot more children or start having a lot less children, that's going to show up in this type of graph, right? So, well, let's skip these questions. I want to keep looking at something. Okay, so here's America, right? Here's the United States. Now, look at this one. This is Kenya in Africa, right? How would you describe the population of Kenya well, here's the question. How would you describe the population of Kenya compared to the United States?
It's different. They have too much born.
Well, yeah, I mean, too many people born. Yeah, I don't know that you'd say too many, but certainly a lot. What happens?
A lot.
Their life is shorter.
So
Yeah, okay, maybe
yeah.
their life expectancy of the average person is shorter. Let's look at, you know, we have a nice big healthy wide band at 50 to 59.
Death.
Right? But 50 to 59 in Kenya is 1%, right? Look at this, you know, compared to, so maybe life expectancy, people die younger, and that could be for a lot of different things, right? And it could be a lot of different reasons, but you would, if you were interested in population, you would then want to learn why is life expectancy shorter in, I mean, even from age 0 to age 5 to age 10 to 15, people are dying, right? Children are dying. Why is that happening? Let's, you know, you could figure that out. Okay. Now, number 16, here's a tough question. What would the crowd look like if you walk down the street in Kenya versus compared to the United States? You would see a lot of whom?
Empty.
Well, no, I mean, if you gathered up, you know, you're walking down the street and you gather up 100 people in Kenya, a lot of them are going to be
younger people more.
Yeah, young people. Yeah, exactly. You're not going to find, you're going to be hard pressed to find a very old person, right? Okay. Now here's something crazy. Okay, here's the population pyramid for Qatar. Qatar, let's just check this out on a map. Qatar. Let's look
Is it Quator or Qatar?
You say Qatar.
Some
people say Qatar, but
we thought it was Quator. Quator. That's what we thought.
No, it's Qatar.
Yeah, it's not quite, because
it's called Qatar.
In the Middle East.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a. My map's kind of frozen.
It's near Dubai. It's near Dubai, Kuwait.
Yeah. Okay. So here's Saudi Arabia, right? The Arabian Peninsula, and here's Qatar. Okay.
It's a small country.
Yeah, it's a very small country. The population is only 2.2 million, Okay. But, okay, the question is, Qatar is an oil-rich nation and the wealthiest nation in the world, with well over twice the wealth per capita per person than the United States, right? We think the average person in the United States is on a world scale wealthy, right? I mean, you may not think of yourself as a wealthy American, but compared to much of the rest of the world, Americans are wealthy, right? Qatar is twice the wealth per person per capita than the United States. Judging from the graph, what can you tell about Qatari society?
Yeah, they have more men than women.
Right. Like a lot. Like it's kind of crazy looking, right?
It's more blue, more blue than pink.
Yeah.
During the 25 to
Yeah.
yeah,
25 to 34
or
is a ton of men, right? So
Mhm.
something's going on. It's an oil-rich nation. So you have a lot of oil is going to take two types of people: the really rich people who own the oil companies, and the
Yeah.
fairly poor workers, laborers who are working the oil fields. Apparently, from maybe we can say from this chart, a lot of those people are men, right?
Mhm.
Young, healthy men who are either working on the financial side or working on the labor side. But one way or the other, it looks like Qatari society is very much heavy in men. The children are pretty equal, right? Left and right,
Mhm.
boys and girls. So,
I think they import people from hire people from other country.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so
Yeah.
all of these
They need workers.
young men are not
Label.
Qatari
They buy
born.
them,
They're
yeah.
immigrant, exactly. They're immigrants in, which is still going to show up on this chart. So a lot of the immigrants, it'd be interesting to see the numbers. How many Qatari immigrants are men? I'm guessing most, right? Maybe all, who
Mhm.
knows? And for whatever reason in Qatari society, they're not immigrating in very many women. So that's kind of crazy looking. So that's a population pyramid. Not something you're ever going to see again in your life, probably, but it's good to practice. You read the title, you look at the vertical axis and say, okay, what is that? And this horizontal axis is odd because 0% is in the middle, but then you can quickly figure out, okay, men go left, women go right, upwards from 0. So it's a little bit weird, but it's good. Sometimes it's good to practice with those weird examples. Okay, political cartoons. You might get a political cartoon. Now, the thing is with political cartoons is sometimes they can be very specific, but they try to use information that's everybody's going to understand, right? So if it's political, question number 19, what do the donkey and elephant in this cartoon represent? Anybody know?
Republican and Democrat.
Yeah, okay. So do you know which is which?
Uh, the donkey, I think it's Republican.
No.
No, oh, okay.
The donkey and I,
Democratic
yeah.
and Republican.
Yeah,
They
now
they
I
they
don't
are
know why. It goes back a long way, 100 years or 150 years. I don't know why, but at some point the Democratic Party started being represented like in cartoons and things
with donkey.
by the donkey, and the Republican Party started getting represented as an elephant. I don't know why, but you see them on like political signs, and certainly in a cartoon, this represents the two political parties. It doesn't represent a donkey and an elephant. It represents Democrats, Republicans. Okay.
Yeah.
So in a political cartoon, you have to say, not what do I see, but what is being represented. Okay. So we see a donkey, Democrat, elephant, Republican, filling a sandbag. It says disaster aid. It's raining. There's a pool of water. They're standing in
Yeah.
front of other sandbags. And the donkey says,
One hand.
yeah. And the donkey says, one thing we can agree on. Okay. So
Mhm.
what is number 20? What is the meaning of this cartoon?
I think the meaning of the, oh my goodness, the meaning of the, the meaning of the cartoon is,
Work together. Mhm.
Okay.
Work.
I think it's only when some disaster coming is make them agree same things.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So only when a disaster
And
strikes, only when a disaster strikes do the two political parties cooperate, right? Because all the other times we hear in the news, it's Democrats and Republicans not working together, not getting along, not passing laws, right?
Yep.
But number 21, when might this cartoon have been published? After a disaster, maybe after a hurricane, right?
Mhm.
It's flooding, right? We see flooding and a storm, so maybe after a big storm or some flooding, then they can cooperate, which is a good thing. But
Mhm.
so the the author of this cartoon is making a comment that probably, hey, it'd be nice if they cooperated a little bit more, but he's, he or she is saying, well, Dave Granlund, is saying
dum, dum.
it seems like the only time they cooperate is after a disaster, right? So political cartoons, you look at the representation. Here's another one. Okay, this is an old cartoon. Let's see what we see. On the ground, it says depression. That's the Great Depression, right? The Great Depression in the 1930s. And we see a bunch of people, and people are labeled, right? And that's common in political cartoons because they represent something. They're not just a person, they represent a group or something. So we see a gangster holding a gun, a racketeer who's a person who like kind of cheats to make money. He's wearing a top hat. He's probably very rich. A bootlegger in the 1930s, 20s, you had prohibition. Remember, we've talked about prohibition. A person who's making illegal alcohol is a bootlegger, and a dope seller, maybe selling drugs. He's holding a
So much.
fistful of cash. And the tall guys, we have prohibition, right? In the 1920s, they prohibited, they made illegal the selling of alcohol. What's the what is this? So what does this cartoon say about the Great Depression of the 1930s? It's the Great Depression. The average person has lost his job, all their money, right? People are poor, people are unhappy. Do these guys look poor and unhappy?
No,
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 No.
they look.
they need money.
I
They
think
look
during
happy.
some disaster come, yeah, some people not follow the rule. They have
Yeah,
no
okay.
chance to make money and to do some not illegal things.
Yeah, okay. So during the Great Depression, and I don't know when this came out. This may have been during the Great Depression or maybe a short time after, probably. Um, this person is the message being told to me through this cartoon is, hey, even during the Great Depression there's still people making money, but making money in bad ways, right? Gangsters, prohibition,
Mhm.
bootlegger, dope seller, they're taking advantage of society and
Yeah.
making money off of it in illegal and
Mm.
maybe violent ways. Okay, so political cartoons, you got to think what is being represented, right? This isn't just five guys dancing. It's those groups of people being happy, right? That's what's being shown to us, what's being
Yeah,
represented.
it's not human.
Yeah, right, right. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, pie chart or a pie graph. This is, real common. We've seen these before. Let's look at the title, Military Deaths of World War II. And we see the countries, right? Soviet Union, Germany, Japan, China, France. And this is just numbers of military deaths. Um,
Mm.
so 24. What 4 countries saw the most deaths, the most military deaths in World War II?
Soviet
Soviet
Union.
Union, German,
Soviet,
Japan, and China.
Germany,
Right.
Soviet
Okay.
Union.
Japan.
Right. And it actually
Soviet.
puts them in order for us, right, on the right hand side. Soviet Union, red. Germany,
Yeah,
black.
Soviet.
Japan, white. China, yellow. Why do we not care about the gray? Because that's bigger than the yellow, bigger than the white. Why didn't anybody say
Yeah.
that one?
This is like a union. A lot of countries they come together.
Right, exactly. And so on a pie chart, you may see something that says others, right? Because this lists,
Mm-hmm.
what is that, 7 or 8 countries, and then everything else, every other country that did not lose very many, but not enough to show up even in the graph, we group them all together into this gray others category, right?
Mm-hmm.
People died. We want to show that on the graph, but it's not the most important information. So sometimes the person who makes the graph just kind of does that, makes an others category. Okay, so how would you summarize the Soviet military deaths compared to the rest of the world?
Mm-hmm.
The color,
Yeah, Soviet Union is red. How would you describe that compared to the rest of the world?
more people die over there.
Right. Yeah, you would say more people died in the Soviet Union
Mm-hmm.
than the rest of the world combined. Right. And
Yeah.
that's easy for us to figure out. If it was just a small sliver, then it'd be tough to compare. Oh, is this one bigger than that one? But this is red, clearly more than half the people that died in World War II were from the Soviet Union. Right. We can figure that
13
out.
million
13 million.
600,000.
That's a lot of people. 13,600,000. Like
Is
Yeah,
that's a big
it's a
deal.
lot.
yeah. I just wonder is Soviet Union is like the Russia, they come together.
Right. Soviet Union was, I think, 13. What then later became, it broke up at the end of the Cold War and became 13 different states. Russia was the biggest one, right? It was Russia, but it wasn't just Russia. It was some other smaller communist areas.
Like the 1980, they broke up.
I think 1989 was the breakup of the Soviet Union, and they became. Oh, let's look at the Soviet. Let's see if I can find a good map here. Soviet Union countries. These countries were in the Soviet Union, and then they broke up, right? So you have Russia, the big one,
Yeah,
but
mostly.
also
Yeah,
Estonia. Right?
that's the largest country in the world.
Yeah, by geography, yeah. But then a bunch of other very small countries that, we don't really worry about very much. And I mean, I don't think very often about Turkmenistan or Moldova or the country of Georgia. It's not our state of Georgia, it's the country of Georgia. Like people live there, but these aren't the most important countries to me. But these are the smaller countries that broke off when the Soviet Union broke up, right? So for much of the Cold War, from after World War II until I think it was 1989, they were all together as the Soviet Union. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Here's a good. Yeah, we already looked at color shaded maps. We already looked at that one. Let me see if I can.
You know, that's what I do.
What's that?
Yeah, I was trying to say we're looking at this. So I'm looking at this right here, Democrat, dark blue, light blue, and I'm looking at who voted for who for Trump, no, for Hillary Clinton, the blue, and Trump, the red. Well, most of Philadelphia, they voted for Hillary Clinton, and I'm looking and seeing that That's 40%. 50%. Now, no, 70%. That's most. That's Philadelphia. Now,
Mhm.
listen. Now, 40% is I see that's Bucks County and other counties. 60% is Montgomery, Delaware, and Chester again. You know, and
Mhm.
Lehigh. 70 now Republicans. Trump got the most was in other counties, and they also. And I'm just telling you, that's what I said. The other counties and light counties. That's light red. Northampton County. That's what I'm saying. And other
Mhm.
counties. Look. I'm just looking. I'm just looking. That's all. You can just change it. You can just change it. I'm looking.
Yeah. So, well, let's look at how with the Electoral College. Let's look at some government here for a minute. With the Electoral College, Pennsylvania has, I think, 20 Electoral College votes, right? In the election, and I should actually update this because it's 5 years old now. How is it decided who will get all of Pennsylvania's votes, electoral votes? How do we decide that?
Just
You know,
like this, the percentage, if one win is total.
right, the
vote.
whole state, right?
Yeah.
So we vote in the presidential election every 4 years, and the whole state's votes get put together in one big pot, and then it's whoever wins the state of Pennsylvania, right? But look at Pennsylvania. We have two big cities. We have Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, and we have Philadelphia, which is much larger. And in the middle of the state, we have State College, where Penn State is. I think this is Harrisburg. So if you look at the map, it's mostly red, right? And yet, uh,
Mhm.
it's so close. It's in 2016, 49% to 48%. So it's very close. And yet, if you look at the map, you're saying, well, there's so much red. How could they lose? What happens is, let's compare this map to the next map here. This is population density, right? So this is Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. This is Philadelphia over here. Very high population density, right? So if it's not that each of these counties like are equal, there's a lot more people in the Philadelphia counties than out here in the northern Pennsylvania counties. So you can be as Republican as you want in northern Pennsylvania, but if there's only 20,000 people in your county, whereas Philadelphia there's 20,000 people in a square mile, that's going to make a difference. So, we won't look too closely at these questions and stuff, but with a population density, you got to pay attention to that population density. Okay. And you think, well, all of those people, whether you're in Philadelphia or you're out in the middle of the state somewhere, all the votes are getting put together, right, to see which of the candidates wins Pennsylvania. Doesn't matter who wins your county. So that's how that goes. Okay. Let's skip that. Okay, here's a bar graph. We'll do a few more here. Here's a bar graph. We haven't looked at a bar graph yet. Okay, bar graph. U.S. exports to Great Britain, France, and Germany, 1913 to 1921. This would be over the time period before, during, and after World War One. Okay, World War One, not World War II, World War One. 1913, we see the years across the bottom, 1913 to 1921. Up the side, we have millions of dollars, $200 million up to 2,400 million, which would be like $2 billion. Okay. And this is kind of a different one. We have 3 bars per year. Okay. So it's Great Britain, France, and Germany in 1913, Great Britain, France, and Germany 1914. So it's 3 bars for each year. A little different. You
Mhm.
gotta keep that in mind. Okay. So the question is, what happened to U.S. exports to Great Britain between 1913 and 1919? That's the big black one. What can we say? 1913 to 1919.
They
How would you describe?
increase, they
They
go
increase. Okay.
increase,
A lot,
yeah.
right? They go up.
A
They
lot,
go,
yeah.
yeah.
There is a big difference
Okay. What was the
between 13
value?
and 19.
Yeah. What was the value of U.S. exports to France at its peak? France is the light gray.
Mhm.
Peak year, let's say 1917. Okay, it's kind of hard to see, but
1,000.
Lower.
about 1,000.
1,000.
Yeah, 1,000 million, which would be 1,000 million would be a billion. So $1 billion, right? And that's your standard question for a bar graph. You kind of have to just kind of see it and make it do the best you can, right? But yeah,
Mhm.
just measuring. Okay. Next question. World War I was fought from 1914 to 1918. Which one of these three nations was the U.S. at war with, and how can you tell? 1914 to 1918. So the kind of the middle half. Which country was the U.S. at war with, and how can you tell?
Great Britain.
Germany.
Germany. Why do you think it was Germany? Now, maybe you know it was Germany, but from this graph, how can you tell that we were at war
Low
with
export.
Germany?
Oh.
Yeah,
Low
because
export.
there is nothing, no export,
Right. Yeah. 1916,
it's
17, 18 almost looks like zero, right?
zero. Yeah,
If we're at war with Germany, we're not going to be selling them stuff, right?
yeah.
So that's information you can tell. You know,
Mhm.
which of these countries were we probably at war with? Well, just only by seeing this information, exports to these countries, things we're selling to the countries, you could say,
Yeah,
well, it looks like we're at war
yeah,
with Germany.
yeah. There is no transaction, no transaction between Germany
Yeah.
and US.
Okay. And number 35, the British during the war,
Oh, she's
the British set up a naval blockade to stop goods from reaching Germany. Was it effective? This is kind of overlaps with my previous question.
Looks like the French, no big change, but the Great Britain, they have the more increased.
Mm-hmm.
Good relation.
Say that again.
Good relation.
Yeah, so we clearly have good relations with Great Britain and France. We're fine. We're trading with them more during the war. But if the British set up a naval blockade to stop goods from reaching Germany, maybe it was effective. Maybe it worked because we were not selling anything to Germany. So maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's not the best question. But certainly, yeah, let's forget about that question. I like 34, where we say, just based on this graph alone, we can say we were at war with Germany. That's a good question. Okay. Okay, this is a line graph. Sometimes you have more than one thing happening. Okay, this is age distribution of public school teachers. The number of teachers and okay, so here's three pieces of information, right? Across, up and down, we see the number of teachers, 20,000 teachers, 80,000 teachers. Okay. Across, we see their age, 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old. And the three lines represent three different years, school years, 93 and 94, 99 and 2000, 2003, 2004. So normally on a graph, you get two pieces of information, right? Up and down and side to side. Here, we're getting three pieces of information because we're getting the number of teachers and their age, but we're getting it in multiple years with multiple lines. Okay, does that make sense? You could do this for every school year, right? This is pretty old information, 2003, 2004. You could do it for this year, and I wonder if it would be different, right? So this is kind of a tricky thing here. Sometimes on a bar graph, you're going to see multiple pieces of information. This is 3 different school years. Okay. All right. Let's look. Last thing, we'll finish up here real quick because it's noon here. So mean, median, and mode. So if you've done math with us, maybe you've come across this. But this is important to understand, especially for the science and math, and maybe you hit it on the social studies test. But anytime we're talking about graphics, let's talk about averages. Okay, the mean average. There's different types of averages, and this is kind of strange to a lot of people. When you say what was the average, this one is what you're talking about, the mean. I don't know why they call it that. The mean average. This is, okay, let's look at the graph. Books read by Maria. The number of books up and the month that she read those books. So how many books did Maria read in each month? Okay. Question is, what is the mean average number of books that Maria read? To find the mean average, or what most people just call the average number that she read in each month, you add up the numbers, right? 3, 1, 6, 2, 3, 3. You add those up, you get 18. You divide 18 by 6. Why am I dividing 18 by 6? Where did I get the number 6?
January?
6 months.
Because there's 6 months, right? It's not the 6 from January. I'm
Okay.
in this
6 months.
in this period. She read 18 books in 6 months. So I'm going to divide 18 by 6 to say that she read 3 books. On average, she read 3 books per month. Okay.
Okay.
Normally when somebody says, what's the average? This is how you do it. Okay. It's called mathematically, it's called the mean average because there's different types. Now let's look at some other things. This isn't something you come across very often, but maybe if Maria is your daughter and you wanted her to read more, if she liked to read and you wanted to see how she was reading, this is another way you could look at it. What is the median number of books that Maria read? It's kind of strange, but here's what you do. The median is the middle number when the numbers are listed in order. Okay, kind of strange, but this is how you do it. You put them in order. 1, 2 for February, 3, 3, 3, and 6. Okay, the numbers per month. You put them in order, and then you take the middle number. So if it was 5 numbers, if we didn't have this 6, then the middle number would be a 3. For us, there's 6 numbers, so we pick the middle 2 because there's not a middle 1 number. We have to pick 2 numbers, which happen to both be 3. So the answer is 3 books. I don't know when you would, I honestly don't know when you would need this, but this is called the median. And maybe, has anybody come across that in like studying math?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you do. I don't know when you would kind of need that piece of information, but sometimes you do. Next is the mode. Okay, what is the mode? And maybe if Maria is your daughter and you want to learn more about how much she likes to read, maybe this is something you could do. You could say, what is the mode number of books that Maria read? The mode is the number that occurs most often, right? So she read 1 month of 1, 1 month of 2, 3 months of 3, and 1 month of 6. Okay. So if I was talking to Maria and I'd say, well, what's the average number of books you read every month? She'd say 3 books, right? Because from before, 18 divided by 6 is 3. But if I said, what's the number of books you read most often, right? If I said, what's the number of books per month you read most often, she would say 3, because she's read 3 books 3 out of the 6 months. It's the number that occurs most often. Okay. kind of a strange thing. I don't entirely know when you'd always use these kind of
Oh, you
things,
want to?
but those are the three types of averages. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Last, sometimes you get an infographic. So this is something you see these in magazines. Sometimes you see them in the newspaper. There's a lot of them online. The news likes to use infographics online. An infographic is just something like this, and there's all kinds of different ones. They give you a ton of information all in one place. Okay. So real quick, we'll look at this. This is, and you can look up, let's look up info.
Sorry, I have to leave. I have other class.
Okay. All right,
Thank
Gracia. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for logging in. We're almost done here, but yeah, thank you.
Me too. I have another class.
Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much. Have a great day.
Yeah, you
Bye.
too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay. All right, guys, we're almost done. So this is an infographic, information, graphic, visual information about the Ohio River. This squiggly line is a map, right? You may think it's a graph, but it's a map of the Ohio River. The Ohio River starts at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and this gives you different towns. And then it gives you facts, right? Just facts. Here's a number. It's 981 miles long. It's 0.5 miles wide on average. It's 24 feet deep on average. It just gives you different pieces of information. Here's a graph of pool levels. Here's a graph of chemical releases. Okay, pollution. This is a thing focuses a lot on pollution here. So an infographic isn't something you're going to come across on the test, but you might come across it in life, especially online. People love to do infographics because they're interesting and they give you a lot of information all in one place, right? I just Googled infographic and here's a bunch of different things, right? Just tells you a bunch of information about a related topic. Okay, they're kind of cool. You see them online because it's just interesting. Okay. Okay. So that is all the different things I can think of for social studies graphics. We've covered a lot. The key is you take a moment, you read the title, and you just take 10 seconds when you see a new graphic and you say, what is this telling me? Is it up and down, side to side? What information is here? You don't hit the panic button. You see something crazy like these population pyramids. You don't hit the panic button. You take 10 seconds and you read all about it. You figure out what's on the screen in front of you and you go from there. Okay. There's always a bunch of graphics on the tests. So you want to be prepared for them as you are for the reading, the paragraphs that they're going to give you. Okay. So we've buzzed through a whole lot of information. Does anybody have any questions?
No, I don't have a question, but I just want to say this one thing. I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna try again with my tests next week. And I want to thank all of you for all your support on this class. Thank you so much for being my teacher. Now I'm gonna slip in and come in and refresh my memory,
Mm-hmm.
because I just need to study for life, and I need to refresh my memory. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, I want to thank you so very much for what you had done. And thank you so much for just allowing me to just express my feelings and tell you some things that I love. I want to thank you so much for allowing me to be in this class. I really want to thank you because I just really don't know what to do. I don't know. You don't know how much I appreciate all of y'all. I am still going to be in this program. I got 2 more tests to take, and then I'll be finished.
Yeah.
But before I do that, let me just say thank you so very much for all of what you've done. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
Yeah. No, I'm glad. And so actually, so let me remind everybody. So today's our last class. We're going to take some time off for the summer. Um, Other classes, I think other teachers are going to continue to teach some of the classes. Check that email that you get every week. And I'll pick this social studies class up again probably in September, after the summer when the school year starts up again. And if you guys are still in the position to study social studies, then log in and join me again. If you've moved on to studying something else, that's fine too. But yeah, I'll send out this information, this whole thing we looked at today, as I always do. I'll send out this video, and I'll send a link to my list of all the videos actually I've ever done for this class this year and last year. If you want to go back and hear something again or study something again, that's fine. But yeah, thank you for everybody for contributing.
So,
And
hello?
yeah,
But
Are
I
you
just
going to send everything that have been taught so far in one email, or you want us to go back to those ones that you've been sending us?
well, I'll send a link to my YouTube list of all the recordings.
Okay.
And that'll have, if you watch the recordings, that has everything. I'm not going to send out all the readings we've done, but
Okay.
I've sent those out over there. If you ever want, just if you want something in specific, send me an email and I can
Oh,
send you
okay.
whatever. I'm happy to.
All right.
I'm just saying that I want to thank all of y'all so much. That's all. Cause I just now when we start this class again, I'm not going to take it, but for right now, before you go, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm going to college in January, and I want you to know that. I want you to pray for me because I'm going to go. I'm going to go.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
so I want you to know, what I'm going to study in college, and I want to let you know that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So study music, going there for music. And I want to thank all of you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody. Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
So, Jendaya, good luck next week, and everybody have a great summer. Send me an email if you need anything, but have a great summer.
I'll email you when I tell you my results. When I tell you
Yeah,
my
definitely do. Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. See you, everybody.